In our headlines on this Thursday, February 6th, here in South Korea. The sixth hearing into the president's impeachment trial began early on this Thursday at the Constitutional Court, again with key testimonies from military officials who are involved in the brief imposition of martial law on December 3rd. Meanwhile, authorities here are restricting access to Chinese AI service, DeepSeek, on government devices amid data security concerns which appear to be fueling similar restrictions in a number of different countries. And on the trade front, findings for 2024 show Korea's current account surplus more than tripled on year to hit over $99 billion on the back of stellar exports and greater dividend income. We start yet again at the Constitutional Court, where the sixth hearing began earlier today with President Yoon in attendance as a new lineup of witnesses were grilled into the events surrounding the evening of December 3rd. For more, our top office correspondent Oh Soo-young joins us live. Soo-young, it's good to have you on. So the court session today, that is, opened in the morning, I hear.
That's right, Sonny. There were strong clashes today here in the courtroom, where the key question was really whether President Yoon had ordered the physical removal of legislators from the National Assembly on December 3rd. And, well, the very fiery exchanges made as former Army Special Warfare Commander Kwon Young-se delivered his testimony at the request of the National Assembly's impeachment panel. His previous statement clashes with the claims of President Yoon and former Defense Minister Kim Yong-yeon that the military was ordered to remove agents rather than lawmakers from the National Assembly. Kwon said in his phone call with Yoon that because there were no troops inside the main assembly building at the time, he understood the president told him to remove legislators. Then during the testimony, he admitted that he heard the president tell him to pull out the numbers, or inwon in Korean, not legislators, or 의원 in Korean, inside the National Assembly. He repeated his previous claim that the president and the defense minister did not want the number of legislators in the assembly to reach 150, the number of votes needed to pass a motion, including to revoke martial law. To this, President Yoon himself spoke out, saying that he had not used the word numbers when there are words such as people or agents to refer to troops. He stated that if he'd asked for 151 plus legislators to be removed, then there would have been a back and forth between him and the commanders on the ground to discuss the feasibility. Kim Yoon-se, commander of the 770th Special Mission Battalion, who led the break-in at the National Assembly, also testified today. He said Commander Kwon Young-se did say the number of people should not exceed 150, but noted he seemed to be relaying instructions from a higher authority rather than issuing a command. Kim said he did not receive any orders to remove or restrict the movement of legislators in the National Assembly, but to lock down the building as ordered. He added that he and the troops were deployed in uniform straight from standard training. Both Kwon and Kim say that they've been ordered to lock down the National Assembly and then decided that the situation would be impossible. Now, Senior Presidential Secretary for Economic Affairs Park Chun-seop also began his testimony with questions likely focusing on the opposition-led parliament slashing the government's budget, which Yoon claims led to a state of national emergency, thereby justifying his martial law.
Meanwhile, Soo-young, the hearings are set to end next Thursday. Are we looking at a possible extension of these hearings, or will next Thursday be the final session?
Well, looking at how things are going, it seems likely that the court will have to schedule more hearing dates beyond the initial February 13th deadline. And the court announced today that there's going to be an additional witness added to the list, and that's Cho Sung-yeon, commander of the 1st Security Group under the Capital Defense Command. Now, the decision comes after Capital Defense Commander Lee Jin-woo, a key witness in Tuesday's hearing, refused to answer crucial questions to verify the orders that were given, including by President Yoon on the evening of December 3rd. According to prosecutors' findings included in Yoon's indictment, Cho relayed orders by Lee Jin-woo to forcibly remove lawmakers from the National Assembly and ordered troops to assist the Special Warfare Command in clearing a passage to drag lawmakers out. His testimony is scheduled for next Thursday at 5 p.m. Now, if the justices add more hearing dates, then it's likely that the verdict of the trial would come around March, considering that it took about 10 days for former President Park Geun-hye's ruling to be issued. Now, the court has been very determined to expedite proceedings, while Yoon's lawyers have been calling to slow down the pace of the twice-a-week hearings to once a week, given that Yoon's criminal trial will begin in 2 weeks' time.
Right, I see. All right, Seong, thank you for the latest on the impeachment trial. That was our Oh Seong reporting live from the Constitutional Court. Meanwhile, at the National Assembly today, Acting President Choi Sang-mok attended a hearing led by lawmakers into charges of insurrection against the Yoon administration. Our political correspondent Shin Ha-young reports.
During a third assembly hearing on Thursday into allegations of insurrection by the president and some of his ministers, lawmakers directed their questions to Acting President Choi Sang-mok. The spotlight was on a controversial note Choi received on December 3rd, ordering the preparation of a budget for an emergency legislative body, presumably to replace the elected National Assembly. President Yoon previously said in his third impeachment hearing at the Constitutional Court that he learned about the note through media reports. Opposition party lawmakers on the special committee sought to determine whether President Yoon issued instructions to certain cabinet members through written notes at the time. Choi reaffirmed that he received the note but did not review it immediately.
If the emergency legislative body, as mentioned in the note, forcibly dissolved the National Assembly and replaced it, wouldn't that be an unconstitutional body?
I'm not aware of that matter.
Meanwhile, ruling party lawmakers claim that appointing Ma Eun-hyuk to the Constitutional Court would be unfair due to the lack of a bipartisan consensus.
I believe there was no bipartisan agreement on nominee Ma Eun-hyuk. What do you think?
I would say that there was no agreement between the parties at that time.
Thursday's session was also attended by Prime Minister Han Duk-soo and other officials. Han expressed concern that if the Constitutional Court doesn't make a decision the public can accept, it could cause national division. Ahead of Thursday's hearing, the committee called 25 witnesses, including President Yoon, Acting President Choi, and former Defense Minister Kim Yong-hyun to testify. However, 9 of them, including Yoon and Kim, submitted excuses to not appear. At the beginning of the hearings, the opposition-led committee issued orders for Kim and 3 others involved in Yoon's martial law declaration to appear as witnesses. The committee's investigation is scheduled to end on February 13th, but the opposition is considering pushing for an extension, citing the absence of key witnesses at previous hearings. Shin Ha-young, Arirang News.
And the ruling People Power Party is poised, that is, to focus on party reform and change. Intentions to this end were shared by its interim chairman Kwon Young-se during a press conference earlier on this Thursday, as he observed that, quote, some stability and harmony had been restored. Acknowledging what he referred to as a recent discord between the ruling party and the government, Kwon said the PPP will now seek to improve its image through its policies, especially those regarding the economy. He pointed to easing restrictions on business operations by Korea's conglomerates to boost growth as one potential policy. Access to Chinese AI service DeepSeek is being restricted on government devices here in Korea over data security concerns. Our Moon Hae-ryun has details.
South Korean government agencies have restricted access to DeepSeek, a Chinese AI service accused of excessive data collection. On Thursday, the Ministry of Environment revealed that it blocked DeepSeek on all online computers as of 9 a.m., while the Ministry of Economy and Finance stated its plans to restrict access on computers connected to external networks. These measures come a day after the Ministry of National Defense, the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, and the Ministry of Trade, Industry and Energy announced that access to DeepSeek on computers connected to external networks had been banned. These ministries handle a significant amount of classified information related to diplomacy, national security, and trade. A Defense Ministry official told reporters that the decision was made due to widespread concerns about the AI platform. This comes after the Ministry of the Interior and Safety issued an advisory to central government ministries and 17 metropolitan and provincial governments, urging officials to be cautious when using generative AI services like DeepSeek and ChatGPT. While the advisory did not explicitly call for a ban, it warned against entering sensitive or personal information into AI platforms, citing potential security risks. South Korea's Personal Information Protection Commission sent an inquiry to DeepSeek's headquarters, requesting details on its data collection and storage practices, but the company has yet to respond. The private sector is also taking action, with major Korean tech companies restricting the use of DeepSeek. Kakao, an official partner of OpenAI, recently banned its employees from using the service for work by citing security concerns. LGU Plus also issued a security notice banning employees from using DeepSeek for work on the company network and advised employees to avoid using DeepSeek on personal devices. Samsung, SK, and LG Electronics have long prohibited unauthorized software on company devices, while Korea Hydro and Nuclear Power recently reinforced its AI security policies, banning DeepSeek on its internal network. DeepSeek has also been banned from government computers in Australia and Japan, while Italy has gone as far as banning the app entirely. In the US, the state of Texas has blocked DeepSeek from government-owned devices. Meanwhile, the European Union and the UK are closely monitoring potential risks associated with Chinese AI platforms. Moon Hae-ryun, Arirang News.
In other news, following a stellar performance last December, Korea's current account marked a remarkable surplus last year at over $99 billion, more than triple the size noted in 2023. Our Choi Min-jung covers the latest numbers.
South Korea's current account surplus hit an all-time high for the month of December. According to data released by the Bank of Korea on Thursday, the country posted an almost $12.4 billion current account surplus in December 2024. This marks the largest December surplus on record. It's also the third largest monthly surplus in South Korean history. The hike was thanks to strong exports and increased dividend earnings. Exports increased annually by 6.6% to $63 billion. The continued growth in semiconductors and IT products, along with a slowdown in the decline of non-IT products such as automobiles, contributed to a higher export growth rate. The primary income account, or the net income earned by a country from its foreign investments, as well as wages paid to foreign workers, posted a $4.8 billion surplus in December. In particular, the dividend income surplus reached $3.6 billion. As a result, the cumulative current account surplus for 2024 reached $99 billion, more than 3 times the surplus in 2023. On an annual basis, this is the second largest current account surplus on record, following the figure posted in 2015. Choi Min-jung, Arirang News.
The Trump administration's protectionist trade policy is taking shape with a fresh tariff on China and briefly postponed tariffs on Canada and Mexico amid renewed threats of blanket taxes on all imports to the U.S. So what does this mean for export-oriented countries like South Korea? Our correspondent Lee Soo-jin seeks to answer that question.
South Korea faces both risks and opportunities as global trade dynamics shift amid rising tariff tensions. While U.S. President Donald Trump on Monday local time decided to pause the implementation of the tariffs for Canada and Mexico for at least 30 days, his 10% tariff on Chinese products took effect just after midnight Tuesday. But these tariffs could potentially benefit Korean exporters who'd gain a competitive edge in supplying products that China previously dominated. According to one expert, U.S. companies may shift their supply chains to South Korean firms.
In markets like the semiconductor industry, companies like SK Hynix already have a strong presence. And if tariffs are imposed on China, South Korean products could gain an even greater competitive advantage.
As semiconductors are South Korea's top export item, this would boost the country's trade surplus. But risks remain, as expected drop in exports of Chinese goods to the U.S. may reduce Chinese orders for South Korea's key intermediate goods.
Our country's export structure depends on selling intermediate goods to China, for them to be assembled into the final product for export to other countries. So if demand for China's goods declines, demand for these intermediate goods will also decline.
And with growing concerns of possible tariffs on the EU and South Korea as well, South Korea's government and its companies are being proactive. The South Korean government announced Wednesday that it will establish a strategic advanced industry fund worth over 34 trillion Korean won, or around $23 billion to boost industrial competitiveness.
Ongoing global trade uncertainties, including additional tariffs on China, require close attention. We will establish a strategic advanced industry fund at the Industrial Bank of Korea to support high-tech sectors like batteries and biotech.
As for the private sector, SK Group Chairman Choi Tae-won will lead a delegation to Washington, D.C. on the 19th to discuss response strategies, with a meeting with Trump reportedly under discussion. Lee Soo-jin, Arirang News.
Meanwhile, Seoul and Washington's national security advisors have agreed to meet at an early date in the U.S. to address a host of regional and global concerns. Now, intentions to this end were shared during recent talks on the phone between Shin Won-sik and Michael Waltz. According to the top office here, the two officials touched upon the bilateral alliance as well as the trilateral partnership with Japan amid North Korea's nuclear weapons and missile threats. Shin also voiced his confidence in the future of South Korea's ties with the U.S. under the Trump administration, while Waltz shared a similar expectation of greater cooperation across a range of fields. On the international front, Washington's friends and foes alike have voiced their firm opposition to the idea of the U.S. taking over the Gaza Strip. Our Lee Seung-jae covers the condemnation.
During a meeting with Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu on Tuesday, U.S. President Donald Trump proposed that the U.S. take over the Gaza Strip and resettle the Palestinian population. His plans to turn the area into the Riviera of the Middle East were heavily criticized by Western allies on Wednesday. The French Ministry of Foreign Affairs stressed its opposition to any forced displacement of Gazans, adding that Paris will continue to push for the implementation of a two-state solution. Italian Deputy Prime Minister and Foreign Minister Antonio Tajani said while Italy will look into Trump's plans, it still remains in favor of a two-state solution to the Israeli-Palestinian conflict. German President Walter Steinmeier slammed the plan, calling it unacceptable, adding that such actions will form a serious basis for the upcoming talks between the regional actors and the U.S. administration. UN Secretary General Antonio Guterres also criticized the proposal, calling the relocation of Gazans a form of ethnic cleansing.
In the search for solutions, we must not make the problem worse. It is vital to stay true to the bedrock of international law. It is essential to avoid any form of ethnic cleansing.
The paramilitary Palestinian Islamic Jihad group denounced what it called racist comments by the U.S. leader and vowed to fight his plans in Gaza. In a statement on Wednesday, the group said that Israel's attempt to force Palestinians to leave Gaza failed and that Trump's proposal will also fail. Despite the international condemnation, President Trump said Wednesday at the White House that everybody loves his proposal for a U.S. takeover of Gaza. Trump's officials were quick to clear up what they believe were misunderstandings, as U.S. Secretary of State Marco Rubio said that Trump's plan was a unique offer to step in and clear debris and destruction in Gaza. He added that the move to relocate the Gazans was not meant as a hostile move and that details still needed to be worked out. With Trump also considering U.S. troop deployment to the Gaza Strip, U.S. Secretary of Defense Pete Hegseth said Trump is willing to think outside the box, look for new and unique dynamic ways to solve problems, adding that the Pentagon is prepared to look at all options. Lee Seung-jae, Arirang News.
Over in the Greek island of Santorini, rampant tremors have forced 2/3 of the residents on the island to evacuate. According to local broadcasters citing authorities there, more than 11,000 of the island's 16,000 residents have sought shelter on the mainland. Of them, 7,000 took ferries, while 4,000 left on planes. There have been hundreds of quakes in the region around Santorini over the past 2 weeks. No casualties, no damages have been reported, but concerns are mounting that the series of small tremors may be a precursor to a major earthquake. On the entertainment front, a host of K-pop artists are scheduled to take the global stage this year as well to meet with their overseas fans. G-Dragon is set to headline the opening day of this year's Head in the Clouds, which kicks off for 2 days on May 31st in Los Angeles. He is also poised to release his newest solo album in over a decade later this month. Meanwhile, K-pop girl group BLACKPINK will soon embark on a world tour as revealed in a teaser video. Now, this will be the group's first global road trip in well over a year.
This is The World Now, bringing you the latest stories from around the globe. The United States Postal Service has announced that it's resumed accepting parcels from China and Hong Kong following a brief suspension after recent tariff changes. On Wednesday, the U.S. Postal Service announced it would resume accepting all inbound mail-in packages from China and Hong Kong, reversing a suspension that lasted less than a day. The initial halt came in response to the U.S. government's imposition of a 10% tariff on Chinese imports, as well as the suspension of a customs exception, which previously allowed packages valued under $800 to enter the country duty-free. The brief suspension had raised concerns among e-commerce platforms like Temu and Shein, which heavily rely on direct shipments from China to U.S. consumers. Following the resumption of accepting parcels, Temu's parent company, PDD Holdings, saw its stock recover some losses. The UK has announced an additional financial aid package to support Ukraine during a visit by the British Foreign Secretary to Kyiv. Approximately $68.7 million in financial support was announced by British Foreign Secretary David Lammy on Wednesday. The new aid package aims to bolster Ukraine's resilience against Russian aggression and is designed to cover energy initiatives, economic recovery, and social services. The announcement follows the recent signing of a 100-year partnership agreement between the UK and Ukraine in January, aimed at strengthening defense cooperation and economic collaboration. Since Russia's invasion, the UK has committed a total of £977 million, or approximately $1.22 billion, in support for Ukraine. Meanwhile, Russia and Ukraine conducted a major exchange of prisoners of war on Wednesday, with each side releasing 150 soldiers. The swap took place in an undisclosed location mediated by the United Arab Emirates. The released Russian soldiers were transported to Belarus for medical examination and rehabilitation before returning to Russia. Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky confirmed the return of Ukrainian personnel, including members of the Navy, Air Force, and ground forces. The last exchange of prisoners took place in December of last year. In the U.S., a statue of Portuguese football star Cristiano Ronaldo was unveiled in New York City's Times Square on Wednesday. Standing at approximately 366 centimeters tall, the bronze statue was created by sculptor Sergio Fornari to celebrate Ronaldo's 40th birthday. The statue was mounted on a truck and painted in green, red, and gold, the colors of the Portuguese flag. The event attracted a large crowd of fans, many waving Portuguese flags and chanting Ronaldo's signature, Seu Celebration. The statue will be taken on a tour around the world by the creator. Choi Ji-hee, Arirang News.
This morning, there was a severe cold spell below -10 degrees Celsius nationwide. Cold wave warnings and advisories have been still in effect in most parts of the country for several days. With Arctic cold in Seoul, the Han River is partially frozen. More snow has been falling across the country, including Seoul, from this afternoon. By tomorrow morning, up to 15 centimeters of snow will fall on the west coast of Chungcheongnam-do province and the Jeollado provinces, 1 to 5 centimeters in the Seoul metropolitan area, and 3 to 8 centimeters in the rest of the central inland areas. Most of this snow will ease off from tomorrow afternoon, but more snow is forecast in the Jeollado provinces and on Jeju Island until this weekend. Tomorrow's Seoul will be as cold as today at -12 degrees and Daegu at -4 degrees. Highs will move up to -6 degrees in Seoul, -2 degrees in Gwangju and Daegu. The cold wave is expected to continue until this weekend and then recover back to normal readings. That's all for Korea. Here are the weather conditions around the world.
Right, those are the top stories at this hour here in South Korea. Thank you for watching, and be sure to stay tuned for our panel session coming up right after this break.